What's the YouTube? Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to a profile that you have enjoyed quite a bit, and that is of course the Dark Magician Primite update. So I did do a Red Eyes version of the deck. You guys seem to enjoy that as well, so I thought I'd bring you the updated version of Dark Magician that used some of the updates in the Red Eyes profile, just kind of give you a bit more of an understanding of where the deck is now going, how it currently looks, and how you can utilize the different engines within it. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you won't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the profile, we're going to be showing you what we've got and why we've got it. So we're starting off with triple Dark Magician, same as the previous profile. I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time explaining each of the individual reasonings behind the cards that were already that way in the previous profile. You can go and check that out in the link in the description. It just saves a lot of time for those of you that are re-watching this video just to see the minor updates. Your ideal starter for the entire deck is triple Magician's Rod, followed up by, of course, triple Magician's Soul, your double Illusion of Chaos, and then I choose to play 2 Preparation of Rites to help me get to my Illusion of Chaos. We're then still playing the 1 Dark Magician Girl. Because the Primites utilize Dark Magician a lot more, it's very easy to be sending Dark Magician Girl from deck to grave with Magician's Souls, and then draw 2 off your Soul Servant rather than just 1. And then for the last Dark Magician monster, we are playing Timaeus the United Dragon. So as you can see in this version, one of the cuts that happened was the Apprentice Illusion. It kind of felt that it wasn't as required as much in this particular version, as that's where the Dogmatika package kind of steps in and helps provide you with that consistency that you need, and some sacrifices were needed to be made. We've then still got the 2 Soul Servant. It's entirely up to you whether you want to play 2 or 3 of this. I bounce back and forth between 2 and 3. 3 can sometimes get a little bit too much, but then also one of the ones that if you hard open it, then you've got loads of other different targets that you can kind of search for off of the back of the Magician's Rod. So it really is up to you. I'm quite comfortable with 2, but there's no issue against having 3. Then we play a couple of one-offs in the form of the Secrets of Dark Magic, the Dark Magical Circle, and the Magician's Salvation, followed up by an Eternal Soul and, of course, a Magician's Combination. The way I see it is if you're playing Dark Magician Girl on the deck, you might as well play a Magician's Combination. It just adds another line of protection in order to protect the Winterlock and protect the rest of your Dark Magician board, so it can be very, very helpful for you. Then onto the Primite lineup. So for the Primites, it's pretty much exactly the same bar one change. We are still playing 2 Imperial Dragons, and the best thing about this is the effect to summon it is still treated as a normal summon. So it doesn't actually clash with your Winterlock, which means you can still bestial your opponent and summon down your Imperial Dragon. So you can clear off an opponent's entire board and then still follow up with a bestial. So you're not locked into one or the other. You can also still activate Secrets of Dark Magic to fuse during your opponent's turn, and then still use the Primite Imperial Dragon to banish your opponent's entire board. So it works out really, really nicely. I have been testing between 1 and 2 of this card. I felt that 2 is more than enough. I definitely don't think you need to be playing 3, and I could see you be playing 1 if you wanted to, but 2 kind of really does give you a bit more consistency. It is a bit of an issue if you hard open it with no weight of getting to Dark Magician, but when you're considering that you have 3 Lordy Lords and 3 Roars to help you get to your Dark Magician. Not to mention on top of that, you still have 3 Magician's Souls and then the generic or general Dark Magician cards as well. It really does give you a bit more consistency to get to. Speaking of, we do play 3 Lordy Lord and 3 Roar. Roar, in my opinion, is probably the best card that kind of bridges the 2 decks, because Roar allows you to get Dark Magician from the deck to the field if you control no monsters, but other than that, you pay 2,000 life points to declare a normal monster effect. The declared normal monster and the Primite monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle until the end of your opponent's turn. Then if you control no monsters, you get to special summon one of the declared normal monsters from the deck in defense. On top of that as well, if your opponent normal summons a monster, you get to banish this card from the hand to target a normal monster you control or in your graveyard, and banish 1 monster from the field with less attack than that monster. So when you're looking at all the different Lordy Lore cards, especially with Primite Drill Beam, is you actually get to target cards that are either the same attribute, the same type, or now with Raw, lower attack. So it really does give you everything you need to. Now, one thing that I do need to address and correct with Primite Lordy Lord that I did mention in my previous profile is Lordy Lord doesn't actually backtrack. Now, what I mean by that is when you activate this card, you get to add a Primite card from the deck to the hand, except itself. That's one effect. The second effect is you get to declare a normal monster card name. You get to special summon that declared normal monster from the hand, deck, or graveyard in defense. But you cannot activate the effects of special monsters on the field this turn. Now, that little clause there that says this turn is a little bit misleading, because more times than not, the exact same outcome could very easily be clarified by saying for the rest of the turn. So what I'm trying to say here is, with Lordy Lord, I was initially under the understanding that if I summon down Magician's Souls, use this effect to send 2 cards to draw 2 cards, I would then not be able to activate the second effect of Lordy Lord. That turns out that that is not the case. You can still activate Magician's Souls to send 2, draw 2, and then use Lordy Lord to summon a Dark Magician from the deck. Now in this particular version, it's very rare that that clash is ever going to be a major issue. What I mean by that not being an issue is more times than not, you're going to be using Lordy Lord to search you out raw, and then you'll use Magician's Souls to send the Lordy Lord to get you that draw anyway. The only major clash that you're going to have is if you do summon out Dragoon, it means you can't use Dragoon's negate effect after you've already activated the Lordy Lord to summon a vanilla from the deck. It can help you going into game 2 or going second, because that will allow you to get another Dark Magician from the deck, and then you're going to be able to kind of build your board up a little bit more. So it does come up, and what you need to know is even though it says for the turn, it doesn't back count. It's literally just from that point on. Once you've activated the effect to summon a vanilla from the deck, it's from that point on that you can't use the effects of special monsters on the field. So a little bit of clarity on that one. I was under a different understanding, but now it makes complete sense. I think the best kind of explanation that was given to me was that unlike Branded Fusion and Pot of Prosperity, where it's part of the entire effect, this is actually down on the resolution. So if you don't activate that effect, you're never going to lock yourself, and when you do activate that effect, it's from that point onwards. And then for the last Primite card, we do play the 1 Drill Beam still. So this one actually got cut down from 2. And the reason for that is it was just very specific. Yes, of course, it still needed you to either control a normal monster or a Primite monster, or you need to reveal a Primite monster or a normal monster in the hand. Now, more times than not, you don't want that normal monster to be floating around. You either want it on the board or you want it in your hand. You don't want both or the other. And the idea was that you're just so consistently being able to get Dark Magician to the board that you can utilize Drill Beam whenever you want to. It does also have a very nice secondary effect that allows you to revive it from the grave. Well, I say revive it. It's as if you control a Primite monster, you get to set this card from the graveyard, but you can only use each effect once per turn. The idea is that you're just being able to constantly keep resetting it if you need to, which means when there were cards that needed to be cut, this was one of the first ones that I felt you could arguably do so. Because if you already open up Raw, your next target you're going to want to search off for the Lordy Lord will be the Dragon, in my opinion, and then from that point on it will be the Drill Beam. Or sometimes if you don't want to be going through the Dragon, you can actually go directly to the Drill Beam. And then we played the Dogmatika package. Now we're only going to play the very basic small one on this one. Is the 1 Maximus, the 3 Nadir Servant, and then of course the 1 Shadow Schism. Now the way that this works is Nadir Servant will send you a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard. More times than not, depending on what you want the outcome to be and how greedy you want to be, you're probably just going to send your El Shaddai App Cologne. This will then allow you to search out Schism and then discard a card from your hand to the graveyard. And then straight away, as long as you have a dark monster in your graveyard, when you activate Schism during your opponent's main phase, this will then allow you to summon out Winder, which will ultimately end up locking your opponent down. The best way of summoning down Winder will be when they try to activate a card or effect that special summons a monster, because then you go, okay, cool, activate Schism, summon out Winder, and then that's their lock. So they then need to kill the Winder or negate the Winder in order to move on, and you're still going to have ways to be able to disrupt them with stuff like your Raw in the graveyard, your Drill Beam as well, Dark Magical Circle if you need to off of the back of Eternal Soul. So you're going to make sure that they just can't out your Winder, which is really, really important. If you wanted to get a little bit more greedy, what you could do is you can actually use Nadir Servant to send the Garura from the extra deck, which allows you to draw 1 card. You would then need to use Maximus's effect to banish the Garura from the graveyard to then summon itself down, and then send 2 from your extra deck to the graveyard in order to get you the App Cologne play. There are some other targets you can put in the extra deck that I'll explain when we get to them, but that is also another one of them clashes that will go with Lordy Lord. But at the end of the day, if you were to go through your Magician's Souls draw play, your Soul Servant draw play, and a draw off the back of the Nadir Servant, you're actually going to end up drawing 5 cards, which is pretty insane, because you would draw 2 off the Soul Servant because you'll have Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl in rotation. Magician's Souls would send the Lordy Lord, and then it would also send you, when I get to it, the Magician's Salvation, so that's your 2 draws there, and then of course the Nadir Servant send Garura gives you a nice draw as well. And then for the hand traps, we are playing triple Ash Blossom, followed up by 2 Bestials in 1 Magnamute and 1 Druid Swarm. Keep in mind, if you Magnamute your opponent, you'll actually be able to search out your Primite Dragon, which is really kind of cool. Triple Infinite Impermanence, and then a single Call by the Grave. Now, the one that I did take out is I have taken out Super Poly, and I have also taken out the Bull Drake, but Super Poly is very easily a side deck option if you want to. The issue is the extra deck becomes a lot tighter, and you'll start to see this when I go through it now. So for the extra deck, of course, we're still playing the 3 Dark Magician fusion monsters in the form of the Dark Magicians for your draw power, which technically, if you go down this route as well, you can draw 6 in a turn, which is crazy. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and of course your Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. I really can't wait to see this get a Quarter Century and a Bonanza, which is, it's speculated that it's in there. If it is, it'd be really cool, because this card definitely deserves an upgrade. Still playing the 1 Ebon Illusion Magician. I just think it's a really kind of cool card. You don't have to. That's one of the flex spots you can take back out to put a Guardian Chimera back in. It's also an option if you wanted to put in some other targets as well. I'm still playing the Link package of Access Code with Selene, Dart the Dark Charmer, and then Umduct instead of the Link Spider. But again, that's just because sacrifices needed to be made through the extra deck. Still got the IP into SP just because this kind of combo is insanely powerful. You can still get into SP, you just won't be able to get into it during your opponent's turn, as effectively if you do cut out the IP. And if you don't have access to an IP SP Little Knight, sorry, you can very easily tag that out. And then the card that I would advise you to tag it out for would be your Nightmare Unicorn. But again, that's entirely up to you. Another card that I really do advise people playing in this one as well, that I just can't quite figure out the space yet, but I think the space would actually be the second window that I'm playing, would be your Mech Knight Crusader Avramax, because that's another way that allows you to protect your window, which ultimately, if you don't play 2 windows, I would put in an Avramax, which is probably what I'm going to do, to be honest. So I'm not going to do another update on that one. I'm just going to, I'll tell you what, we'll do it now. We'll do it now. I will... And we are going to take out... I was playing 2 windows, and the reason I played the 2 windows is that I feel that in a grind game, a lot of people forget that window, that you, if they don't get rid of Schism, you can actually activate and summon off of the back of window again for a second time. But I think you can very easily catch your opponent out guard. So there you go. We're going to do a live change right here, right now. And I'm just going to put the Mech Knight Avramax in. So we'll play the one Mech Knight Avramax, as if it was here from the start. And then, of course, for your targets you're going to send off of the back of your Nadir Servant, you've got your Garura for your greedy draw, you've got your Natis for the go second pop, and then, of course, you've got your App Clone to search you out your Schism in order to then set you up a window during your opponent's turn. So it really is up to you. If you want to go more defensive, you can go for the window and you can go for the double window play. But I do quite like the idea that technically, with the amount of spells you burn through very easily, is you can work your way up through the Selene into Avramax play during your first turn. And then during your opponent's turn, you've got loads of different attributes in the graveyard. But what it gives you the ability for is that when you activate Schism, you summon out window. And then the best defensive backup that you're going to have is Avramax makes all your opponent's monsters attack him. So they have to get rid of this card before they can get rid of the window. And if they're only allowed 1 special summon to do so, it just makes it even harder to get past this. Especially if you're making the window off of the back of the Schisms after they've already put a monster on the board, it means that unless they're playing Forbidden Chalice, there's no way they're actually going to be able to negate the window effect. And it really just causes them so many more issues. And that is pretty much it for the deck update. Now, in regards to side deck, I really always put that down to personal preference. At the end of the day, it really comes down to what environment you're going to, what you're going to be facing, how you're going to be facing it, and everything else in between. But I'll just quickly show you a very demo side deck. So this is a side deck that I had for Mimigals, but it's usually just a side deck that gets utilized pretty much all round. And what I mean by that is I usually end up playing board breakers in the form of evenly matched. I just feel that a lot of people undervalue how good this card is, and this card will just help you break some boards very easily. If there are expected to be loads of back row style decks, I do end up playing Lightning Storms and a Harpy's Feather Duster, and I then also follow up with stuff like Cosmic Cyclone as well. Just because I feel Cosmic Cyclone is probably a little bit better than Duster, the fact that it's at 3 as well and it's a quick play allows you to deal with those odd, sacky one-offs that your opponent might get to. And what I mean by that is if your opponent ends up getting to something like an anti-spell fragrance, you have a way to out it. So it kind of balances the board state in that kind of scenario. So that's 6 there, and then of course you'd play 3 Cosmic Cyclones. I would then always suggest that you play some sort of negator that can't be responded to. So either Dark Rule or No More if you don't have the resource to be sending or banishing or do it, well, not banishing. Dark Rule No More if you don't have the resource to be sending. If you do have the resource to be sending, I would then advise you go for something like Forbidden Droplet. And then the final card that I advise you all to play is a format-specific hand trap. Now what I mean by that is if your environment does not play around Nibiru because they're all playing rogue decks that run headfirst into Nibiru, you would play Nibiru. If they're all playing decks that instantly lose to Draw and Lockbirds, play Draw and Lockbirds. If you have access to the Mole Chummies, play the Mole Chummies. If you are going to an environment that every single player plays Labyrinths and you can survive without using your normal summon, you go with something like Denko Sekka. This just kind of gives you an idea. So you adapt it to your environment. But the way that I always categorize this is that in your extra deck, your side deck, you're always going to want to have 5 different scenarios at the base minimum. And what I mean by that is you're always going to want a board negator, you're always going to want some form of back row hate, you're always going to want some form of board clearance. So you've got your clearance, your back row hate, your negators, so you've got your balance of these 3, and then you've got 6 more spaces that can come down to environment specific hand traps or environment specific cards or format specific cards. So it really gives you a bit more flexibility. Anyway, that was just something I did on the fly. I thought that a lot of people might ask, oh, what type of side deck do you play for this deck? So I've just given you a breakdown. It really does come down to preference, environment. There's a lot of stuff that changes. So what I use as a side deck might not be perfect for what you want to use or you need to use for your side deck. But at least with what I've just shown you, you have a bit of an idea of what you might be looking for and everything else in between. So that's it for the updated Dark Magician Primite profile. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I'll always be happy to answer them for you where possible. But for now, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.